Monday, May 13th. Near Sedan, in France, the Luftwaffe bombs the French fortifications along River Meuse for 10 hours without let-up to facilitate the crossing by German armored vehicles. In Belgium, General von Reichenau's troops occupy Liège and continue their advance towards the northeast. Meanwhile, in the outskirts of Dinant, Rommel's troops cross the River Meuse and establish a bridgehead in central Belgium. In the Netherlands, Luftwaffe aircraft bomb Amsterdam and Rotterdam, forcing terrorized inhabitants to flee the cities. The commanders of Fedor and von Bock's armies demand the surrender of the Dutch forces. The Allied troops of General Henri Giraud are forced to withdraw. Queen Guillermina flees to London on board the British destroyer HMS Hereward. At the same time, the merchant ship Blommersdijk arrives at the port of Hoboken, New York, carrying a part of the Dutch gold reserve, which is to be guarded by the Federal Reserve. In London, Winston Churchill speaks to the nation over the radio about his taking office as Prime Minister. In view of the misgivings of members of his own party, he states, "I have nothing to offer but blood, toil, tears, and sweat." His aim, he goes on to say, is victory at all costs.
After a while, tamely to peter out.
Tuesday, May 14th. In France, General Gaston Biot orders 250 Allied planes to destroy the bridges established by Gerd von Rundstedt's troops over the River Meuse in the area of Sedan and their supply lines. The Luftwaffe and the German anti-aircraft artillery frustrate their attempt. General Charles Hunziger receives reinforcement for a counterattack, but General Heinz Guderian's panzer divisions overpower the French force, which loses half of its men and most of its artillery. The Allies have now lost their only opportunity of halting the Germans, who have successfully completed the first part of Case Yellow. In Paris, Prime Minister Reynaud demands more help from the British government. The British are aware of the 460 planes they sent to France. 250 have been shot down by the Germans. In Washington, Arthur Purvis, who is in charge of aid to the Allies, tells Churchill that in a few months 325 planes will be sent to Britain in a gesture of solidarity from President Roosevelt. Meanwhile, the Olympia makes its entry to the port of Boston, with some of the gold withdrawn from the Central Bank of Denmark before the German invasion. Hitler gives instruction to his generals for the second phase of the Yellow Case, while the international press wonders where the Nazi dictator's mysterious weapons are. Wednesday, May 15th. In the Netherlands, after the bombing of the main cities, Army Chief General Henri Winkelmans signs the surrender at Resord, a village near Rotterdam. Dr. Seyss Inquart is named as the new governor of the Netherlands by Hitler. Belgium is being ravaged by the divisions of General Fedor von Bock, which speed towards the north and west of the country. After having attacked the Dial line, the Germans demand the Allied commanders to withdraw their men from Brussels, or else the city will be destroyed by the Luftwaffe. In France, the population panics as it faces the unstoppable advance of the Nazi armies. General Maurice Gamelin orders all units in the rear guard to march to reinforce the front. Prime Minister Reynaud tells Churchill that they will be defeated unless more air support is provided. But this is opposed by Air Marshal Hugh Dowding, who argues that Britain would be left unprotected. Colonel de Gaulle regroups all armored vehicle units to confront some of the German panzer divisions. Winston Churchill requests urgent help from the American president. To get round the neutrality laws, Roosevelt decides that American planes should be flown to the Canadian border, where they are to be pushed across by groups of people. Once on Canadian soil, they can be shipped to Britain. Thursday, May 16th. Churchill arrives in Paris for a meeting with Reynaud, Daladier, and General Gamelin. France is lost, the French leaders say over and again. The British Prime Minister loses his faith in the French capacity to resist. He criticizes their fatalism and the poor organization of the military while offering air support from southern England. Former Prime Minister Chamberlain declares that if France is occupied, the only solution for Britain would be for Roosevelt to propose an armistice to Hitler.
If the United States is a nation.
On the other hand, the British air offensive over Germany intensifies, with strategic bombing of industrial centers, railway lines, and fuel deposits as the main targets. In Western Europe, the German offensive advances on all fronts. Von Bock's forces, with Rommel's Panzer Division acting as a spearhead, reach Civry on the Franco-Belgian border. Meanwhile, von Rundstedt's units, with Guderian's tanks at the front, continue to advance through French territory and reach Marle on the River Serre, a tributary of the Oise, near Saint-Quentin. In the U.S. Congress, President Roosevelt proposes the country should have 50,000 planes, 500 ships, and 600,000 men. Friday, May 17th. In Belgium, the Allied troops continue to retreat towards the River Scheldt. Von Bock's army, commanded by General Reichenau, occupies Brussels, and the Belgian government leaves to the city of Ostende on the coast. At the same time, Rommel's Panzer Division crosses the Belgian frontier and reaches French territory, where it attacks the Allied line of Sambre-Oise, commanded by General Georges, and enters Les Cateaux and Avesnes to the northeast of Saint-Quentin. Meanwhile, von Bock's tank divisions, led by Guderian, turn for Marle towards the north to meet up with Rommel and head for the towns on the English Channel to divide the Allied army. Hitler, overwhelmed by the success of his forces, reprimands Guderian for the speed of his advance, which, according to the Nazi leader, has placed the German rear guard in danger. Guderian sends his resignation to Gerd von Rundstedt, who refuses to accept it, saying, "My dear general, don't worry about it. You already know that the Führer regards himself as the greatest strategist in history." In the meantime, Colonel de Gaulle sends the 4th Armored Division in a counteroffensive against Guderian's forces in the area of Montcornet to the east of Laon to stop his march to the north. De Gaulle fails in his attempt, but is promoted to general in recognition of his bravery. RAF bombers attack refineries and fuel deposits in Hamburg and Bremen. Saturday, May 18. In Belgium, the Germans occupy the key port of Antwerp. In France, the armored division, supported by Luftwaffe aircraft and the infantry corps, wreak havoc on their way to the northern coast. They occupy Saint-Quentin, the headquarters of the 9th French Army near Les Catelets, take General Henri Giraud prisoner, and occupy Cambrai, where, for the first time on French territory, the SS Totenkopf division sees action. 7 tank divisions head towards the Channel coast with barely any resistance. Fearing a powerful offensive against Paris, the Allied army establishes a line of defense on the banks of the rivers Somme and Aisne. However, the German divisions continue their northbound advance. French Prime Minister Paul Reynaud reorganizes his cabinet and personally takes charge of the Ministry of Defense, while the elderly Marshal Pétain accepts the post of Vice President of the Council of Ministries. Faced by the probable arrival of German troops in Paris, the French government orders all secret documents of the army and the state to be burnt. In London, Churchill sends a telegraph to President Roosevelt, informing him of the disaster in Europe and expressing his fear that very soon airborne troops will invade Britain. Shortly afterwards, he tells the British people they must win and that they will win. Meanwhile, the attaché of the American embassy, Tyler Kent, and the Russian Anna Volkov are arrested on charges of espionage and accused of having intercepted the correspondence between Churchill and Roosevelt.